Happy Mother's Day, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Flint. I am your worship associate today, Jim Newtown. If you are new to us, let me tell you a bit about us. We're an inclusive church that welcomes everyone regardless of their income, education, or sexuality. We are specifically welcoming to the LGBTQ community. If you are searching for a church that believes that love, the quest for justice, and the use of reason are the most important things, then our congregation may be right for you. You know when you're asked a question and afterwards, on the way home or maybe a couple days later, you suddenly remember the perfect answer? About a month ago, I was asked what my church believed. I did okay, but on the spur of the moment and under stress, I could only remember about 3 of the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. Later I realized he hadn't asked me what UUism was, or even what I believe. That a better answer to the question of what this church believes might have been to start by quoting our covenant. So I want to challenge both newcomers and established members to listen and think about the words of our covenant when we repeat them in a few minutes. Every time I speak and listen to the words of the covenant, I am impressed with how well it summarizes the ideas and spirit that binds us together and makes this congregation what it is. If you would like more information about UUism or our congregation, please feel free to contact one of our ministers or our office. Contact information can be found at uuflint.org. And now some announcements. The canvass has officially ended, and we are very grateful to everyone, and we will have results soon. There are a few folks still getting their pledges in, and if you have never pledged before and would like to support this congregation, we need you now more than ever. Please contact our office for more information. Join us for coffee hour after the service on Zoom. The ID can be found on our website, on our Facebook page, and in the e-update. Today is the second Sunday, and our special collection this month will go to Planned Parenthood of Michigan. For 100 years, Planned Parenthood has promoted a common-sense approach to women's health and well-being based on respect for each individual's right to make informed, independent decisions about sex, health, and family planning. As a trusted healthcare provider and a passionate advocate, Planned Parenthood delivers vital health care, sex education, and sexual health information to thousands of women, men, and teens each year. Their mission is to promote healthy communities and the right of all individuals to manage their sexual health by providing health care and education and serving as a strong advocate by providing health care and education and serving as a strong advocate for reproductive justice. That was important. That's why I repeated that. You may donate by writing a check to UUCF and putting Planned Parenthood on the memo line and sending it to the office anytime this month, or by going to uuflint.org and pressing the donate button and indicating there where you would like your donation to go. Thank you. We now begin our service with a prelude by Jennifer Howard. We light this chalice to celebrate the love within us, among us, and all around us. David Hernan. I encourage you to join me in reciting the words of our covenant. Recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service, we gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice.
Good morning. Our opening words are entitled Rare, Not Perfect. With our hands full of groceries, our heads full of things to do, our hearts full of memories, and our dreams full of plans, we tend to think, if we could only get away or finish crossing off things on that list, if we could only undo what has been done or do what needs to be done, we might then live more completely. But we are human beings, flawed, colorful beings that eat plans and memories for food. We are rare, not perfect.
Our meditation reading is entitled, No Mother Could Give More, by biologist Jim Cosgrove. Please join me in a spirit of meditation and contemplation. We begin with a pregnant octopus. She's been that way for 4 or 5 months, carrying the eggs inside her body until one day in midwinter, she starts expelling her eggs one by one into the water. She will produce about 56,000 individuals who float free until she gathers them into groups and then stitches them into hanging braids like a bead curtain in a Chinese restaurant. And then at the entrance of her little cave, she piles up rocks to keep hungry crabs, sea stars, and fish from getting too close. She glues about 170 braids of eggs to the roof, and there she sits, often right under those babies. Months pass. All this time, the mother is constantly on guard. She constantly waves her arms gently over the eggs, making sure that nothing harmful settles on them. And with her siphon, she blows water gently over them to keep them aerated. She uses her arms to protect potential predators away from the eggs and as far away from the den as possible. She normally does not leave the den at any time. Throughout this whole period of more than a half a year, she never eats. All of the energy in her body is slowly consumed by her work until by the time the offspring emerge, she has nearly starved to death. Then one night, even though she is weaker and smaller, and her once brick red color now a deathly gray, she repositions herself and blows all of her babies out of the den and into the open water. Her breath comes in sporadic gasps, but it's essential that she use her siphon to blow them free. And once they detach, the babies know exactly what to do. They are perfect miniatures of their parents, and they swim to the surface to feed. The octopus mother is near exhaustion, and she herself floats free, and sometimes only 2 or 3 meters from the den opening, she stops breathing and dies. It took 2 octopuses, a male and a female, to make the 56,000 eggs, but the yield is just stable, meaning that the 2 parents will be replaced by 2 children. Out of 56,000 babies, after so many months and so much sacrifice, so much care, after all that, mom's yield is usually just 2.
Dear Mom, my ankle was hurting badly yesterday, and that reminded me to send you this Mother's Day email. When my foot, ankle, and back hurt, I'm reminded that it was your not-so-perfect genes that made my left leg shorter than my right. Not a big deal, except that after more than 60 years of walking crooked, my whole left leg is protesting and going on strike. It's working out fine, though, as I sometimes use a walking cane, and now airplane stewardesses grab my heavy suitcase and insist on helping. I can get used to that. I'm also hoping that the cane makes me look distinguished. I can always hope. Thanks also, Mom, for the miserable eyesight you gave me. I mean it. Wearing Coke bottle bottom lenses for much of my life was character building, I'm sure. I suppose I might have inherited my bad eyesight from Dad, but it is Mother's Day today, so I'll put it on your list for now. Thanks also, Mom, for the constant ringing in my ears that adds immeasurably to my other hearing problems, both of which are also genetic hand-me-downs from your side of the family. I've learned to cope with my bad hearing, mostly, so don't feel too bad. Besides, my family gets a good laugh when Lynn says to me, I need to pick up a chalice from the office, and I say, there's a salad in your office? It truly pleases me to see them have such a good laugh at my expense. Dealing with these physical flaws has made me stronger, Mom, and so did my mental health issues that you pass on to me, but I'll save those for next year's letter. Mom, I admit I am sometimes not thankful for some of your genes or for some of your efforts either. But as I have tried my hand at ideal fathering and ideal mothering too, I realize that it makes a lot of sense to be thankful when you just come close. I would even pity the poor sons and daughters of perfect moms if I could find one. Thanks, Mom.
Mother, do you think they'll drop the ball? Mother, do you think they'll like this song? Mother, do you think they'll try to break my balls? Mother, should I build a wall? Hush now, baby, baby, don't you cry. Mama's gonna make all of your nightmares come true. Mama's gonna put all of her fears into you. Mama's gonna keep you right here under her wing. She won't let you fly, but she might let you sing. Mama's gonna keep baby cozy and warm. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Oh, baby, of course, Mama's gonna help build a wall. Mother, should I run for president? Mother, should I trust the government? Mother, will they put me in the firing line? Ooh, is it just a waste of time? Hush now, baby, baby, don't you cry.
It's Mother's Day, and that's a beautiful thing. Motherhood, in all its amazing forms, is basic to all of life on this planet. Mother's Day gives us an opportunity not to just thank or bewail our own mothers, but also to marvel at the ways of the world. Mothering, biological or otherwise, is not just a job, it's an archetype, an organizing force, one of the blueprints for creation, with the great, perfect mother at one side and the terrible mother at the shadow side of our consciousness. I'm sure that the person who started Mother's Day did not fully appreciate the cosmic size of the subject. Mothering of any type is difficult, whether you are an octopus or a Homo sapien. One of my own personal proofs of the difficulty of motherhood came on the day my brother and I, still in diapers, found an upstairs window open and went out onto the flat porch roof. There was no railing on the flat porch roof. We were young enough to be in diapers, but old enough to climb out of a window. That's all I know about our age. Mom, understandably, rarely mentioned this event, and when she did, she never went into details. I don't know where she was while we scampered around on the porch roof, no doubt impressed with the view of the wide green cow pasture across the road. I would bet that Mom was probably being a good mother, standing at the old wringer washing machine, washing the clothes that we weren't wearing up there on the roof. She was finally tipped off that something was amiss by the people honking their horns as they drove by, seeing two toddlers in danger on a roof. Can you imagine what would have happened if we had fallen? It was Dad who undoubtedly left the upstairs window open, but people would not have cared about that. Mom would have been a bad mother if we had been injured or even killed, because mothers don't get much slack. They seldom get a break. I think a lot of people, without knowing it, want to believe that all mothers can and should be like the octopus mother, ceaselessly tending their progeny, never leaving their side. But remember, an octopus mom can only do so much, and only a few of her 56,000 little ones survive to maturity. And by the way, the female octopus also kills and eats her mate. Assuming you see some problems with that, building our ideal of motherhood based on nature has its flaws. Mothers, no matter the point in history, have had to live up to unhelpful, unrealistic, overly simplified ideals that don't give them much slack. Perhaps you remember those old Currier and Ives prints of about 175 years ago. They pictured well-dressed mothers and their well-dressed children running down the stairs to enthusiastically greet the father when he comes home. The ideal of that century was that of the ever-vigilant mother who was the moral center of the home. She taught her offspring how to be good Christians and how to mind their manners. A Currier and Ives mother would never have let her toddlers climb out an upstairs window. None of the many thousands of prints produced by Mr. Currier and Mr. Ives in their 75 years of business showed the full reality of motherhood in their day. Luckily, an immigrant woman of the time did describe the reality. She wrote, "I gave birth to my child while returning my sister's washboard. I washed my baby at my sister's house, walked home, cooked supper for boarders, and was in bed by 8 o'clock. I got up, ironed, milked cows, and sold milk the day after my baby's birth." In my life, I have known only two mothers well. My own mother and her mother, my grandma Alma. Luckily, I knew Alma well enough to know that my mom's chances of being a Currier and Ives mother were greatly reduced by the almost immutable principle that an apple does not fall far from the tree. How could it? Apples don't exactly have wings. However, regardless of Alma's imperfections, she raised 5 children to maturity, and every one of them prospered in their own way. That is a much better yield than that of the octopus mother. In the summer of 1966, my favorite cousins and I stayed at Grandma's house for more than a month. It was then that I got to know her pretty well. At least I thought I did. My mother was at the hospital with my brother with his newly diagnosed diabetes. Diabetes was his genetic inheritance from Dad's side of the family, but that is a sermon subject for Father's Day. I learned a lot about Grandma Alma that summer, and therefore a lot about one of the 5 apples from her tree, my own mother, Shirley. My cousins and I ran wild, and without even trying, tested our grandmother's patience. We had a habit of searching for treasures in an old junk pile on a distant hill. We needed furnishings for our clubhouse that was behind the shroud of low-hanging limbs of an old pear tree. We figured we would get in real trouble for going so far, but the closest Grandma came to yelling at us was to say, "Kids, don't play in the old junk pile. You'll get hurt." We did not heed her words in the least. And she did not resort to corporal punishment, which was very popular in that day. She was mostly very patient, as was my mother. While preparing today's message, I thought a lot about the ideal of the perfect mother. I don't know if a perfect mom is possible, or even a good idea. It seems that when your job is part of an archetype, a building block of nature, just staying somewhere in the middle between the perfect great mother and the terrible smothering mother, just staying in the middle between those two extremes is an amazing feat. Like my own mom, Grandma Alma took time to be with the kids, when she had the time, that is. Having a club, we naturally wanted a flag to carry with us. So upon our request, Alma made us a nice flag with our emblem on it, which was a snarling black panther. This was 1966, and it was all over the evening news about this new group that called themselves the Black Panthers, which was also the name of our club. I don't know for sure that we heard that name on the evening news, but I imagine we did and thought, what a cool name, Black Panthers. It was a nice flag, and little things like that mean a lot and say a lot about a grandmother or a mother who takes the time to make such a thing. And so now, I can truthfully say that in 1966, I was a supporting member of the Black Panthers, and I'm proud of that. But the most important thing that Grandma gave to me through my mother, and my mother passed it on to me, was the gift of being a free thinker. Yes, my mother and her mother before her were my moral center, just like they were supposed to be. They did it not through firm, boring lectures and lessons, but through the gift of a genetic disposition to, as we say, challenge the dominant paradigm. Unlike the majority of the people back then, neither Alma or her daughter Shirley were interested in the organized religion of the day. Grandma was an avowed atheist long before it became fashionable. Of course, they didn't say, "Jerry, forsake the religion of your forebears." Instead, they gave me my most cherished possession in the same way the octopus mother teaches her young, through the wisdom of her body passed on to 56,000 little ones. I may have inherited a short leg and bad eyesight from Mom, but I also inherited a way of thinking, a way of being that I'm very happy with. For better or worse, I've always been this way, and I didn't learn it at school or through a heart-to-heart conversation with my parents. It is mothering by passing on the inherited wisdom of eons, and you can't show that in a Currier and Ives print. Being the ideal, perfect mother, as judged by the people of your own day, is difficult to impossible, partly because humans keep changing the ideal. Starting in the 20th century, psychologists decided that mothers were responsible for causing all sorts of problems with their children because they weren't perfect mothers. The focus had moved from being the perfect moral mother to that of the terrible mother who often messed up her children's minds. Mothers could just not get a break. For example, in the 40s, an influential Austrian physician started the idea that the cause of autism was a genuine lack of maternal warmth from so-called refrigerator mothers. During the same time period, Sigmund Freud and other psychologists blamed schizophrenia on maternal rejection and a lack of attachment. It was also in this era that homosexuality was considered to be a sickness caused by, guess who? Bad mothers. We now know beyond a doubt that good things, bad things, and everything in between are often part of the body-mind with which we are born. Nevertheless, to this day, many people prefer to think mothers are the main cause when their children have mental health challenges. It's called mother blaming. And like the old ideal that the mother was the moral center for her children, mother blaming incorrectly gives the mother more power than she actually has. If you blame mothers for everything, it ignores the fact that most of the time, most mothers are themselves hardwired by nature to be amazingly patient and loving, even with their other imperfections. The octopus mom may indeed kill herself caring for her babies, but she is also lucky in a way. We have no reason to believe that she ever thinks to herself, "These kids are driving me crazy. I need a babysitter now." Our relatives, creatures great and small, apparently aren't self-reflective and don't worry about it when, for example, they have to eat their mate for lunch. Nature can seem cruel, but it must have its way. Human mothers, however, do realize when they need a babysitter. And if they can't get one, nature also takes its course. My mom got married when she was 18 and had 3 kids by the time she was 22. 2 of them were twins, so if you're doing the math, it wasn't as bad as it sounds. But even though she did not have 56,000 babies to care for, 3 kids all under the age of 7 can be a lot of work, a lot of stress. One day, evidently realizing she needed a break, Mom decided to go to a movie matinee and take her 3 boys with her. I'm not sure babysitters even existed in the 60s. If an aunt or a grandmother wasn't available, the mother was usually out of luck. So Mom unwisely took us to an afternoon showing of a movie that was a sword and sandals flick with Romans killing each other. I think it was the movie Spartacus. There was no other choice of movies. It was the movie that was showing at the time at the only movie theater. It was okay for a while, but then the first sword fight broke out, And I remember so well, I was really scared. I was 6 years old, and I didn't want to see someone get chopped up by a sword. I don't remember how long I squirmed in fear and complained to Mom, but eventually she relented. We left by the side door into the bright daylight and the safety of the parking lot. I still remember my relief and also my mother's disappointment that I had ruined her badly needed break. But as I remember it, she didn't say much about her disappointment. She just sucked it up. When I remember that day, it makes me think. I was a very anxious child, just for my first 50 years, really. But what if my mother hadn't left that theater that day and let me stew in my fear throughout the whole movie? I don't know what bad things would have happened. She may have given me my faulty eyesight, but she also gave me a break so many times. When the women's liberation movement came along in the early 70s, mothers still didn't get a break. Liberation gave them many things, including a chance to work even harder. Advertising in the 70s and 80s depicted the ideal mother as the powerful multitasker, endlessly capable of balancing work and home. In a 1980s television commercial for a perfume, a woman transforms from a career gal to a mother to a seductress. The song lyrics proclaimed, "'Cause I'm a woman, I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let you forget you're a man." The ideal of motherhood presented by the ad, mom as superhuman, capable of doing all things and being happy about it, it wasn't helpful to women. It occurs to me that all of these ideas of what mothers should be are just convenient simplifications of what is really very complicated. Dan's song from this morning, the old Pink Floyd song, Mother, actually captures reality better. The mother is both the protector who soothes her son's fears about the atomic bomb, but then later smothers him by overprotecting him from the whole wonderful world. Mothers and motherhood are always complicated. And as it turned out, I learned later in life that Grandma Alma was also complicated. When she was a young mother, she drove Shirley, my mom, crazy. Alma was a very anxious person, it seems. She was deathly afraid of germs and often kept her children sheltered from public settings lest they get infected by some terrible disease, one that was usually non-existent. She was also just plain mean at times. When Mom got love letters from a high school flame, Alma took them away from her and read them aloud to the family. "Dear Shirley, you are the prettiest grill I know." The guy who spelled girl, G-R-I-L, grill, would later become my father. Dad had many gifts, but spelling was not one of them. Alma thought this was all very funny. Was she mean beyond belief? Did she perhaps beat her 5 children? No. She was just another imperfect mother who no doubt had her own imperfect mother and who was loving and kind most of the time. I have to think she practiced motherhood on her own children and got it right with her grandchildren. It may sound like merely a metaphor, but it is much more than that. Every one of us is much like an apple from the tree that was our mother. Much of what we are or ever will be is not far from what she gave us from her body. But unlike real apples, We do have a kind of wings that allow us to fly a little ways from the tree. The wings are our ability to forgive. To forgive in general, and to forgive our imperfect biological mothers or the imperfect people of any gender who kept us alive with their nurture. Evolutionary scientists tell us that this ability to forgive is itself a gift of evolution. The ability to forgive instead of attack has allowed humans to stay together and progress and to avoid wars, both personal and global. Humans can choose to progress and fall a bit further from the tree by being ever more forgiving. Apples and octopi don't have this ability and are blissfully less complicated. We are, in effect, apples with wings when we rise above the intergenerational passing of anxiety or anger or whatever the problem that may be a kind of family tradition. When we fly above those unwanted traditions with our forgiveness, we tip the balance of motherhood toward the great and perfect mother, the perfect mother that is part of the blueprint of all creation. It seems likely that people who gratefully accept the imperfect gifts they receive from their mothers will be the ones who fly the highest and the furthest and make the greatest changes to the world. I don't know if a perfect mom is possible or even a good idea. How would we learn to be ever more forgiving without our imperfect mothers showing us the way? Thank you.
Thank you for the many ways you support UUCF as we promote UU values in this community. Your generous offering makes our life-affirming and justice-centered message possible. You can make your offering at uuflint.org or by sending a check to the church office.
Our closing words are from Jane Jepka. Mother's Day is no time to romanticize parenthood or parenting. It is a down-to-earth process, if ever there was one. So this Mother's Day, let's humanize Mom. Thank her for doing what she could, given all the dirty socks. Thank her for loving you as well as she was able to in spite of your 3 years in junior high. And then let her thank you for the privilege of being your mother.
And let us extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
you.